Hey everyone, I'm Liz, and today I'm going to show you how I put straight hair onto this crochet doll. Some things that you'll need for this tutorial are a crochet hook. I'm going to be using a size E, a pair of scissors to cut off your strands, and if you like, you can make a wig cap in the same color or a similar color to your doll's hair so that the scalp shows less through the strands of hair. And you'll need a yarn needle to sew the wig cap onto the doll's head. Of course, you'll need a doll to add the hair to. For a basic doll tutorial, follow the link on the screen or check in the description below. Another thing you'll need is thread or embroidery floss. The easiest way to do this is with thread because you won't have to worry about separating the strands of floss, but I'm going to show you using embroidery floss. If you want to use all the same colors, that's fine, but I'm going to be using 4 shades of a similar color to get the look that I want. You could use any color of floss or thread you choose, but I'll be using medium lavender, light steel gray, very light blue violet, and pearlescent effects lilac, all from DMC brand. One more thing you'll need is something that's about the same length as the hairs that you want to create to measure your strands on, that you can wrap the thread or floss around to make sure they're of equal lengths. You could use a book or something like that, or you could use a piece of cardboard like I have here and cut it to the right length. So now that I've cut my cardboard to size, I'm going to sew the wig cap to the doll's head. Alright, I've finished sewing on the wig cap, so now I'm just going to sew in the end. So I've finished sewing in this end, so now I'm going to begin to cut my strands. I'm going to start by cutting 4 strands of each color of my embroidery floss, so that I have a total of 16 strands. So I'm going to wrap my embroidery floss around my cardboard 4 times. Then I'm going to cut off the top here. And now I have 4 strands of this color. So I'm going to put that aside and cut 4 more strands of each other color. If you're just using one color, you should just cut 16 strands of floss, and if you're just using thread, then you should cut enough individual threads to make 12 bunches of hairs with at least 8 threads per bunch. Alright, now that I've cut my 4 strands of each color, I'm going to take one of each and I'm going to separate the individual threads. Each strand of embroidery floss will be made up of 6 individual threads, so I'm going to take the first strand of floss and separate out all 6 threads. So now that all 6 threads are separated, I'm going to arrange them into 3 bunches, each with 2 individual threads. And I have 3 strands of floss left, so I'm going to put those aside for now. So now I'm going to take a strand of my next color, put aside the other 3, and separate out each individual thread. I'm going to take 2 of them and add them to each of my 3 bunches so that there are 2 threads of each color per bunch. And then I'm going to take my next embroidery floss strand, put aside the other 3 and separate out each individual thread. And once again, I'm going to take 2 individual threads and add them to each of my 3 bunches. Then I'm going to do the same thing to my last strand of embroidery floss. So now I've separated the threads of 1 strand of my last color and put aside the remaining 3, so now I'm going to add 2 threads to each of my 3 bunches. And now these 3 bunches are complete, so now I'm going to do the same thing to the rest of my floss strands that I cut. I'm going to take 1 strand of each color, separate the threads, and make them into another 3 bunches. And I'm going to continue doing this until I've made 12 bunches in total from all the strands that I cut. So I've finished making 12 bunches of hairs, and now I'm going to begin adding them to the wig cap of my doll. I'm going to start by adding the hairs along the edge of the wig cap here, and I'm just going to do one side. Then I'm going to make another 12 bunches of hairs to do the opposite side. So I'm going to take one of my strands and my hook. I'm going to insert my hook into the area at the front of the face on this side. Then I'm going to take one of my hair bunches from the middle and pull up a loop. And then I'm going to pull the 2 ends through the loop. And then pull on those ends to tighten the loop. I'll show you that again with my next strands. So pull up a loop, and then pull the ends through that loop, and pull to tighten. So I'm going to continue doing that with every bunch of hair that I just made all along this side of the wig cap. So as you can see, I've finished adding the 12 bunches to this side of the head, so now I'm going to make 12 more bunches to add to the other side. So once again, I'm going to cut 4 strands of each color of my embroidery floss and make 12 more bunches with 2 threads of each color. Alright, so I've finished making my 12 bunches of hairs, and now I'm going to add the hairs to the opposite side of the wig cap. So I'm going to start at the front middle of the head, and just like I did on the other side, I'm going to take one of my hair bunches from the middle, pull up a loop at the front of the head, and pull the 2 ends through the loop. Then I'm going to tighten my loop, and I'm going to continue doing that with every bunch of hair that I just made all along this other side of the wig cap. So now I've finished adding my 12 hair bunches to this side of the head. So now I'm going to cut 4 more strands of each color of my embroidery floss to make 12 more bunches of hairs. And I'm going to use these bunches to make one side of the hair part going down the middle of the head. So as you can see, I've finished separating the individual threads of my embroidery floss strands, and I've made 12 more bunches of hairs. So now beginning here where I did my first and second rows of hairs, I'm going to start to add my next row of hairs down the middle of the head. So just like I did before, I'm going to take one of my bunches and pull it up from the middle, and then pull the tails through. Then I'm going to tighten the loop, and I'm going to continue down the middle of the head until I get to the back. I'm going to start on this side, then I'm going to make another 12 bunches of hairs to do the opposite side. So now I'm going to cut 4 more strands of each color to make 12 more bunches, then I'm going to add those 12 bunches on the opposite side down the middle of the head. I've finished separating my individual threads and now I have my 12 hair bunches made, so now I'm going to add these hairs to the opposite side from my last row of hairs. So just like I did before, I'm going to take one of my bunches and pull it up from the middle, and then pull the tails through, then I'm going to tighten the loop, and I'm going to continue down the middle of the head until I get to the back. So as you can see, I've finished adding all 12 of my hair bunches to this side of my hair part. Now if you want to, you can stop here. This look would work if you're going to be putting your doll's hair up in a ponytail. There's just enough hairs to cover up the scalp. But I'm not going to do that. I'm going to add a couple more rows of hairs between the hair part and the edge of the wig cap. Alright, I've finished making my 12 hair bunches and I've separated these 2 rows of hairs so I can add the new bunches to the middle area here. And here is what it'll look like when I'm finished. I decided that instead of adding them in a straight line, I would spread them out a little bit more, and I did a kind of zigzag line of hairs, so that less of the scalp showed through the hairs. If you want, you could add more rows to this area of the hair instead, just to give your doll's hair more volume as well as cover more space, but you'll need to use more embroidery floss for that. I ended up having exactly what I needed with a little bit left over when I only did 1 row between, so just make sure that you have enough of the colors that you're using. Now I'm going to do the same thing on this other side. So I've made my final 12 hair bunches, and now I'm going to add them to the opposite side of the head, and I'm going to try to spread them out more across the entire section of the head. So I'm going to do a zigzag line just like I did on the other side. So I finished adding the last row of hairs to my doll, and if you want to, you can use a strand of the same color as your doll and sew a middle part onto the wig cap if you want that look. But I'm not going to do that with this doll. So now the doll's hair is done. I hope you guys liked this tutorial. If you did, then please give this video a thumbs up. And if you would like to see more tutorials in the future, then please subscribe to my channel, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye!